Hello aspirants, looking at current affairs for 14th Feb. The news items that we have picked up from the Hindu newspaper are these 16. We'll look at them in detail. The first one, Supreme Court to hear challenge on Aadhaar bill's passage. So this is regarding the Aadhaar bill which has been passed. Now it is in Aadhaar Act. Aadhaar Targeted Delivery of Financial Subsidies, Other Benefits and Services Act. So this has been passed, but the challenge has been filed in the Supreme Court by the Member of Parliament Jairam Ramesh. He says that Aadhaar bill was passed as a money bill and there is a discrepancy here. So what is a money bill, whether Aadhaar bill was a money bill or not, will be taken into consideration. The central government's response is that judiciary has no jurisdiction in this aspect because passage of a bill is a legislative procedure in parliament, and in case of money bill too, there is constitutionally provided if there's a question whether a bill is a money bill or not, Supreme Court is the final authority to decide. The Supreme Court has decided this. There is no jurisdiction for the Supreme Court. But then the Supreme Court says that if the speaker says blue is green, we will tell her that blue is blue and not green. So this is the Chief Justice of India's response to this central government stand. Also, it is said that the Aadhaar bill being passed as a money bill, it is an act presently, has resulted in significant savings for the government. So what is it required for is that Aadhaar would be linked to all schemes, programs. So once Aadhaar is linked to all schemes and programs, it will result in savings because this is targeted delivery of subsidies. So we are seeing that when there are no intermediaries, the leakages end and there is direct transfer of subsidies to the targeted population. So Aadhaar plays a major role in this because it identifies the beneficiaries. There is a bank account linked to Aadhaar, so there is direct transfer done as such. So the Attorney General says that government has implemented this Aadhaar Act and it has resulted in significant savings. But the Supreme Court says that your objective may be good. There is no question regarding that. The question here is that whether this was a money bill or not. This can be considered as a money bill or not. So on that aspect, we will adjudicate. So that is the Supreme Court's stand. So even another question which was put forth by the judiciary was that when the bill was a money bill, how did Rajya Sabha suggest amendments to this bill? Because in case of a money bill, Rajya Sabha has no powers. It cannot suggest amendments. It cannot modify the act. Modify the bill. So this is also a question raised, and money bill is defined under Article 110 of the Constitution. The grounds on which the bill can be declared as a money bill is specifically provided. So former Finance Minister Mr. Chidambaram, he is also arguing in this case for Jairam Ramesh. So they are Congress members. So this is regarding the bill. Also, Supreme Court bench had said that the 2014 judgment in which the Supreme Court has said that court has no jurisdiction over procedural matters of the legislature stands. So that as the center also argued. So this is true that the Supreme Court also has passed its verdict. It cannot interfere in the procedural matters of the legislature. But then the argument put forth by the opposition here is that this petition is not about a procedural matter. This is about a substantive infraction. Deviation. So that is what is being questioned. Also, the Attorney General says that this petition has been filed challenging Aadhaar bill under Article 21. So Article 21 is right to life, fundamental right. So this is a writ petition filed under Article 21. That violation of fundamental right to life is taking place because Aadhaar bill was passed as a money bill. So this is also objected to. The Supreme Court has accepted many cases under Aadhaar under Article 21. So Article 21 has a quite wide interpretation. So anything is linked to right to life. So anything which is providing difficulties here is considered within the ambit of this fundamental right to life. So we have specified fundamental rights, but the Supreme Court interpretation has been such that any right which affects your right to life has been considered as fundamental right only under this one article, Article 21. So this is a very significant article. So that is why the Attorney General is also arguing that this Article 21 used for filing every petition, and that what is the fundamental right, considering it as a fundamental right, what is the positive aspect of it is that if your fundamental right is violated, you can go directly to the Supreme Court. Otherwise, if any right is violated or any case which you want to file, you will go through the hierarchy. The lower courts, High Court, then the Supreme Court. But if a fundamental right is violated, you have a right to directly approach the Supreme Court. So that is also one aspect. So it's saying that Mr. Rodgi is saying, the Attorney General, that time has come to relook at Article 21. Every petition is coming straight to the Supreme Court now. So of course, it's the Supreme Court's discretion whether it accepts the petition or not. This petition has been accepted. So now the hearing will take place after 4 weeks. So of course, we are going to hear more on this too, what the Supreme Court has to say on the matter. So this was controversial. So what is this Aadhaar bill actually? So it contains provisions for linking various subsidies to Aadhaar. The Aadhaar would be linked to various subsidies, program schemes. And what is a money bill? A money bill is a bill that contains provisions related to taxation, borrowings by the government, or expenditure or receipt from the or to the Consolidated Fund of India. So if it's related to any financial aspect substantially, then it is called a money bill. So that is why now why was this Aadhaar bill added as a money bill when it does not specifically fulfill this criteria? Because it's not about taxation, it's not about borrowing money. Of course, expenditure from fund takes place for any scheme programs. The scheme programs expenditures are taking place, and for linking also some expenditure would be required. But then money is spent on so many things. So everything cannot be coming under money bill. Why the government put it under a money bill was because it wanted to bypass the Rajya Sabha, where it does not have a majority. So it feared that the Aadhaar would be stalled, because in Lok Sabha it has a majority. That is why it is in power. So Lok Sabha it would be passed. But since in Rajya Sabha it does not have a majority, it would be stalled there and the bill would not see the light of the day. So to bypass this, because for a money bill, Rajya Sabha has no powers. It has to consider the bill, pass it or not pass it. It's given 14 days time frame, after which the bill is said to have been passed by the parliament. So that is it. It can be late only by 14 days. So Rajya Sabha actually has no powers. And even the question, as I said, whether a bill is a money bill or not, the speaker decides. It's the speaker's decision is final. So these were the concerns here. Then this is regarding the criteria for being a money bill. You can see this is defined under Article 110. So that's what taxation, borrowing, and custody of the consolidated fund, of money taken out or expenses done from or receipts made into consolidated fund. All these are considered as money bills. So you can see here, whether it's a bill or money bill or not, speaker has the final say. Speaker's decision is final, cannot be challenged in any court of law, though it is not specifically mentioned, but since it is final means it cannot be challenged. And Rajya Sabha has limited powers. It cannot amend these bills. So these were the few amendments to which Jairam Ramesh had put forth in the Rajya Sabha to this Aadhaar bill. Though it is a money bill, for money bill amendments cannot be put forth, but they were put forth because they considered Aadhaar bill as not a money bill. So these were the recommendations, amendments put forth. So loopholes related to privacy has to be plugged. Database sale of individuals should be blocked. Then even preventing disclosure of demographic information in the interest of national security. So this is loosely defined. So there should be clear definition of disclosure should not take place. That is there. Then provide for aggrieved individuals to approach courts. So if there is anybody who has grievances, they can approach the courts directly. Should be provided for. In the bill it is provided, it can be done through UIDAI. So that was a recommendation, amendment. And then last one was clarify that benefits cannot be denied to those who don't have an Aadhaar number. So this was also a point which Supreme Court quite often raised, because Aadhaar did not have a legal backing. So then you cannot make it mandatory that people should have Aadhaar, only then you would be able to avail benefits. So this is the main thing which has been provided in the Aadhaar Act. So this was an amendment put forth, which of course would make the entire act making no sense. But then if you don't have an Aadhaar number, there should be an alternate provision where it should not be that the beneficiary is out of the benefits, it cannot be availed by him. So that is an aspect that clarify that benefits will not be denied. If you don't have an Aadhaar number, then you can avail the Aadhaar number as the government has presently provided to. But this clarification to be there in the act would give some substance, people an assurance that they would still get benefits. So of course, Aadhaar number, universal enrollment is the key. Otherwise, it would not succeed. And the Finance Minister Arun Jaitley's response was that privacy was another aspect highly raised, that privacy of individuals should be ensured because Aadhaar takes up demographic information. So there's so much of information collected, personal information of individuals. And if this is leaked or if this is passed on, then it may affect the individual's privacy. So that's why it was highlighted that this aspect should also be clearly safeguarded. But then the Arun Jaitley's response was that privacy is not a fundamental right as such, so privacy can also be violated. So this is regarding Aadhaar, the benefits of Aadhaar. So statutory status given, then all subsidies can be direct benefit transfer will be provided through them. This is there. Even UIDAI, Unique Identification Authority of India, this was established as a body under the Planning Commission and through an executive order. So now under the Aadhaar, it would get legal backing. It would become a statutory body. Then the next news item is Justice Karnan fails to show up in Supreme Court. So we have discussed about Justice C.S. Karnan. You know about him. He was supposed to come to the Supreme Court to give his stand, argue, put forth his opinion, viewpoint of view, but then he did not come to the Supreme Court. Then the Supreme Court decided, it's a 7-judge bench of the Supreme Court which is looking into the contempt proceedings which have been initiated against him. Contempt of court proceedings. So this 7-judge bench thought of even issuing a bailable warrant, but then it has not. It was said we will wait for another 3 weeks before the Justice C.S. Karnan, who is sitting judge of Kolkata High Court, whether he would come to the Supreme Court and put forth his stand. The government Attorney General stand was that a criminal contempt charge should be framed against him and action should be initiated. So the framing of charges was awaited, that the Justice C.S. Karnan, who should also be given a chance to put forth his stand, and then charges would be framed. So let's wait and watch. This has been delayed. The next news item is tripartite talks to end Manipur blockade fail. So this is regarding the talks between the central government, state government and Manipur state government and the Naga body, UNC, United Naga Council, which has imposed an economic blockade in Manipur, the national highway, from 1st November 2016. So it's in this 4th month now that the economic blockade is continuing. Essential commodity shortages continue, prices along with demonetization further suffering for the people of Manipur. And Manipur is going to polls also presently. And this entire economic blockade was initiated because the state government of Manipur initiated a provision, it passed a resolution for creation of 7 new districts. So this is Manipur. Nagaland is the neighboring state of Manipur, but in Manipur too there is significant Naga population, and these new districts creation they felt was going against their favor. So that is why they were protesting against this. But then the tripartite talks thought that the Manipur state government would also take back some provisions. The United Naga Council would remove the economic blockade and normalcy would come back, but the talks have failed. And we'll wait. Polls are also scheduled. Manipur is one of the 5 states which are going for assembly polls in this present time. Punjab, it's already started. Punjab, Goa, Uttar Pradesh, Uttarakhand and Manipur. So these are the 5 states going to poll. So we'll see how this sensitive issue would be resolved further. The next news item is Karnataka amends law to allow Kambala. So Kambala is a traditional buffalo race. So this takes place in Karnataka. Jallikattu was a bull taming festival in Tamil Nadu. So that whole issue we have discussed quite often. This Kambala case was also arose again because of the Jallikattu case. So since Jallikattu has bypassed Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act of 1960 by Tamil Nadu legislature passing a bill under it through President's assent, because it's a central act. So environment being, environment and protection of animals, this is under concurrent list. So act both have the power to make laws, but if it's a central law, then central's consent is also required. So similarly, Karnataka Assembly is also thinking of passing a bill to exempt Kambala, the bullock cart racing festival or buffalo racing festival, both of them, from this Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act of 1960 through President's consent. So same method will be used here, because Kambala has also been banned by the High Court. So Karnataka High Court has banned it. A petition was filed by PETA, but now they are trying to bypass it the way Jallikattu has. So this is so it's of course linked to culture. The next news item is Anil Ambani firm to service over 100 US Navy ships. So this is Reliance Infrastructure led firm. This is Reliance Defense and Engineering Limited. So RDEL. This has signed a master ship repair agreement with US Navy. So this is the first time that a public or a private sector entity from India has signed such an agreement with the US forces. So this US Navy agreement is what is it providing for? It will provide for repair and alteration services for ships of the 7th Fleet of the US Navy. So the 7th Fleet of the US Navy comprises of around 100 vessels, 100 ships, and they operate in the Indian Ocean and Pacific Ocean region, Western Pacific Ocean. So this 7th Fleet, any ship repair alteration services can be done at this Reliance Defence Engineering owned private shipyard, which is there in Gujarat, Pipavav in Gujarat. So here this would be done. So this is the reason why this master ship agreement has been signed, ship repair agreement. So now this has been possible because the LEMOA agreement was signed between USA and India in August 2016. So what was LEMOA? We'll see. Logistics Exchange Memorandum of Agreement. So this is under this LEMOA. This is the first agreement signed under it. So this is the first instance of an Indian company, either public or private, providing logistical support to US military within Indian territory. So these are US military vessels. They will be provided servicing her. So this Logistics Exchange Memorandum of Agreement signed between the two countries, this is India-specific version of LSA, Logistics Support Agreement. So there are 3 agreements which USA puts forth as the foundational agreements for military to military cooperation of USA with any other country. So you should have these 3 agreements with USA is what USA proposes. First one, Logistics Support Agreement, a version of that, LMOA, has already been signed by India. So this provides logistics support. Means repair, maintenance support is provided. So that is there. The other 2 agreements are SISMOA and BICA. So this is Communications Interoperability and Security Memorandum of Agreement and Basic Exchange and Cooperation Agreement for Geospatial Cooperation. So these are the other 2 agreements which have not been signed by India. What is this LEMOA's purpose is? It is to provide basic groundwork and promote interoperability between the militaries. So there should be common standards and system. So that will be possible. Also, sale and transfer of high-end technologies will be possible because this agreement has been signed. So basically, its logistics exchange means military facilities of both countries can provide refueling, replenishment facilities to each other's military forces. So that's the idea. So there are many joint exercises also held between India and USA. So then the payments here are done through a long tedious process. So then this will be common standard systems put in place, a mechanism put in place so that further coordination, cooperation is possible between the 2 militaries. So areas that the agreement covers are given. These are 4 areas. Port calls. So port call means when you want replenishment or any other repair services, you can go to that port. So that is called port call. Joint exercises will be considered under this. Training, joint training done or humanitarian assistance provided jointly will be covered under LEMOA. Disaster relief work also covered under LEMOA. On any other requirement which will be there, it says will be taken on a case-by-case basis approved by the both sides. So question of course arises, major question on which the controversy also arises, that whether this LEMOA will result in US troops stationed in India. So it is clearly stated, no, this is not a basing agreement that troops can be based in a particular country. They are only coming for replenishment, refueling. That is it, for repairs. So they will station only for that purpose. It does not mean US troops will be stationed as such in India. So there is no basing of the US troops or assets on Indian side. This is only a logistics agreement has been affirmed. Then so both sides would be facilitated. US can also access logistic support from India and India can access logistic support from USA. Then the next news item is rehabilitation. NGT slabs cost on Uttarakhand for delayed response. So this is a plea which has come before the National Green Tribunal on the human-animal conflict in Uttarakhand in this national park, Rajaji National Park in Uttarakhand. So here villagers are residing within this national park area and there is the need for rehabilitation of these villagers. So a case on this matter has been filed before the National Green Tribunal, on which Uttarakhand government's response was sought and it had said we will respond in a week, but it has failed to do so. So that is why NGT has now slapped fines on Uttarakhand government and all the agencies involved. They will have to pay rupees 20,000 each. So this is embarrassing. The amount is not high. So that's the case. So this rehabilitation of these villages, there are revenue villages called Chucks estates, which lie within the boundary of the national park. And this Rajaji National Park is known for tigers, panthers, elephants. So there is a need for rehabilitation which has to be taken up on a urgent basis. So these are various national parks in Uttarakhand which you should know about. This is Rajaji National Park here. So Uttarakhand has boundary with China, Nepal, and then here is Himachal Pradesh, Haryana and UP. So this Uttarakhand, old name was Uttaranchal, now it is Uttarakhand. So this is Rajaji Jim Corbett National Park, the earliest of the national parks in India. Nanda Devi National Park, Valley of Flowers. Also these are wildlife sanctuaries, Kedarnath and Govind Pashu Vihar. Then there is one Churudhar here. Then the next news item is again regarding NGT. NGT orders inspection of sugarcane crushing units in UP. So this is National Green Tribunal to which a plea has been filed that there is no regulation of these kolhus. So you must have heard the phrase kolhu ka bail. So that is kolhus who are made to move around. These are bulls who are used for crushing sugarcane. So that bull power is used, they move around so that the crushing with the equipment, so that crushing of sugarcane takes place. So in this crushing of sugarcane, it is alleged that it results in significant air and water pollution. So number of toxic gases like carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide are released. So there is a need for regulating these units. So that is why these units in UP. So UP is a major sugarcane producing state also. So here the NGT has now sought response from the Central Pollution Control Board and the State Pollution Control Board of what provisions are there in place for inspecting these kolhus, and also it has said that an inspection has to be undertaken whether there is pollution caused or not because of these kolhus, the nature of the pollutants they release and the adverse impacts. So that has to be studied. A study has been asked to be undertaken by the pollution control boards. The next news item is 24 Maoist cadres lay down arms in Bihar after persuasion from SSB. So SSB is Sashastra Seema Bal. So these are Maoists, left-wing extremists who have surrendered in Bihar. So Sashastra Seema Bal is a border security force. So this guards the Nepal border of India, India-Nepal border. So its prime duty is that, but it is deployed in various affected areas too by left-wing extremism. So it has undertaken this activity under which Maoists have surrendered. So this is a significant development. Then the next news item is Jammu and Kashmir government launches e-prison project. So this is regarding digitization of the details of the jail inmates. So jail inmates in Jammu and Kashmir have increased significantly because many have been detained during the unrest. So there is a need that this data which is maintained manually should be digitized. So this is the e-prison project which will be undertaken, that jail inmates details would be digitized. Plus in the second phase they also will be considering, the state government will be considering video conferencing between the jails and prison headquarters. Also e-court facility being provided, telemedication being provided as such. These will be also undertaken later. So this is the e-prison project. The next news item is mass fraud in Vyapam exam. This is the case before the Supreme Court. So Supreme Court has said there was mass fraud. Many students, around 634 students who were admitted to the MBBS courses through this Vyapam. This was an entrance exam of Madhya Pradesh. So these students' admissions have been cancelled. So they have sought concession from the Supreme Court, but the Supreme Court says that the action of the students was unacceptable behavior. They were conducting fraud. So there can be no exemption given. The admissions stand cancelled. So this is a Supreme Court stand. Vyapam scam is a huge scam in Madhya Pradesh. So it was actually, this Vyapam is the Hindi acronym for the Examination Board of Madhya Pradesh, which was established in 1970. Madhya Pradesh Professional Examination Board. So this is the Vyapam. So it was set up to undertake pre-medical tests. So pre-medical examination test exams were conducted, entrance exams, for the entire state of Madhya Pradesh. In 1982, it was merged with pre-engineering board also. So this was the Vyapam. So all entrance tests for admissions to colleges in the states were done through this. In 2000, first FIR was filed of malpractices in the examinations conducted. In 2007-8, further details came out of an organized scam in Madhya Pradesh. So when audit was conducted, these irregularities were clearly put forth. In 2009, many complaints surfaced about these pre-medical tests when Indore-based doctor and activist filed a PIL in Madhya Pradesh High Court. So then the Chief Minister set up a committee to investigate in the matter. Yuvraj Singh Chauhan. So this is the BJP government in power here. So this committee set up, submitted its report to the government and revealed that 114 candidates passed the test using people who impersonated them. Means somebody else went and gave the exam. So this was put forth in the committee report. 55 cases of impersonation in exams again surfaced later between this time frame. And in 2013, Indore Crime Branch arrested 20 persons impersonating the exam candidates, and the leader of this organized racket was Jagdish Sagar. He was arrested. A list of 317 candidates was confiscated from him. After this, a special task force was created to look into the matter. So this is many arrests. Exam controller Pankaj Trivedi of this Vyapam was arrested for his role in the scam. So many big names were involved in this entire racket. Even former education minister was booked. Uma Bharti, vice president of BJP, demanded a probe by CBI. So then a special task force charge sheet was filed and a CBI inquiry was also accepted. So this CBI inquiry has also been undertaken. Special task force has also issued statements that it has arrested 100 medical students in this scam, and the matter is now before the Supreme Court. So this is being undertaken. There were one more concern was that in this many deaths took place. Special investigation team said there were 23 deaths of accused and witnesses linked to the Vyapam scam. So BJP claims that these deaths were due to natural causes. There is no link to Vyapam, but there were many. A journalist investigating the scam was also killed, and a Jabalpur Medical College dean, woman trainee sub-inspector under this, they also died. So they all linked to Vyapam scam died within 48 hours. So that had raised many questions. Many people had died who were involved in Vyapam scam during this process. So now Supreme Court is hearing the petition on this entire Vyapam scam. The next news item is Supreme Court hints at end to impasse over judicial selection. So judicial selection for the highest judiciary, Supreme Court and High Court, is being looked into. The MOP will be finalized. We have discussed it quite often. Supreme Court now has given a statement that we will finalize the draft MOP which has been given to by the government to us by February end. So by the end of this month it would be done. So that will be a positive development. They say there is a reason for the difference of opinion between the government and the judiciary, because there's a clause in this draft MOP which says that the government has the authority to reject a candidate recommended by Supreme Court Collegium. So Supreme Court Collegium would function. If the government keeps on rejecting, then it will make sure that the candidate which it wants to appoint will only be appointed. So this is a clause on which there is a difference of opinion which needs to be resolved. Then the next news item is Centre puts onus on states to set factories threshold limit. So this is the Factories Act of 1948 which needs to be amended. This has been undertaken quite often but no results have come forth. So now the central government in its bill, it had recommended what should be the definition of a factory. How many workers should it have so that it can be come under the ambit of this Factories Act of 1948. Means all provisions would apply to it. So previously proposals were that factories with less than 40 workers will be under a separate law, Small Factories Law, and the present Factory Act will have at least 40 workers. So if an organization has 40 workers at least, then it will be put under the provisions of the Factory Act. So this was the central government's proposal. The Act originally provides that establishments with 10 or more workers, if the premise is using power, electricity, and to establishments with 20 or more workers without electricity would be coming under the definition of factory under the Factories Act of 1948. So this is originally provided. And this was the government's proposal that for irrespective of power or no power, 40 workers means it's a factory under the Act. So this has been opposed by the trade unions. So that is why now it has been put under the state's domain. The state government would decide. So this is the change which has been proposed in the reform. So it says instead of increasing the threshold limit set for the number of workers in an industrial unit to be statutorily covered by the Factories Law, Centre is now proposing an enabling provision. That's enabling means the state is enabled. Power is given to the state to decide. So state government will decide the threshold over which a unit will be considered a factory for the purpose of the law. So states decide on their own. That is there. So they can increase the threshold limit of workers up to 20 for with power and 40 without power. So this is the proposal which has been put forth now, that the states themselves decide. The next news item is renewables obviate need for new coal capacity. So this is a report by TERI, the Energy and Resource Institute. It says that India will be able to use its renewable sources, specifically store small hydro projects, nuclear and biogas gas plants, to generate sufficient electricity. So the energy demands of the country can be taken care of for the next 7 to 8 years with the existing these renewable sources and even the existing and plant. So that is what it says. That is why obviate means it does not require. We do not require any new coal capacity. So no new investment in coal is needed at least for these 7-8 years. It also says that this renewable sources target which has been set of 175 gigawatts by 2021-22 and 275 gigawatts by 2025-26 can be achieved. So this energy capacity is set to increase to this target for sure. So this is a positive report which has come from TERI. It says that other two renewable sources like solar and wind, there are challenges because of the inherent variability, intermittent. It is not always, solar energy is not always there. Wind as such does not always blow. So there is intermittency and variability. That's why there are challenges in these two aspects. Otherwise, we'll be able to, even with other renewable sources, we'll be able to achieve our targets sufficiently. The next news item is UN calls for urgent meet over North Korea's ballistic missile test. So this is UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, who has said that North Korea's this ballistic missile test, which we discussed yesterday, should be responded to internationally with all countries coming together. The 5 permanent members are on the same page on this. Even China has condemned this missile test, because China is considered as an ally of North Korea. So North Korea promoting communism, China communist country, Korea against USA. So that kind of support indirectly is there. It's considered as, China is considered as its ally. It has also highlighted that the reason why these tests are conducted should be understood, because UN has imposed restrictions on them. So there are so many sanctions imposed on the country, then they have to respond. So this is a response which has come from North Korea, the new US president elected Donald Trump. So highlighting, taking attention as such on their concerns too. So this is North Korea here. You can see China is its neighbor, South Korea lies here. Pyongyang is the capital of North Korea. So it has been developing nuclear facilities. Also it is speculated, or this concern is raised, that North Korea achieved nuclear capabilities from Pakistan. So Pakistan may have sold off nuclear technology to them through its nuclear scientist AQ Khan, who had said that North Korea had bribed Pakistan and acquired nuclear technology. So that is also there. It was a member of NSG. It was a signatory. Sorry, it was a signatory to NPT, not a member of. It's signatory to NPT, Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, but later it withdrew from NPT also. So that is there. And has developed nuclear weapons, so it's a nuclear capable country. It has conducted nuclear tests also. Right. So now in Jan 2016, another news which had come a year ago was that it had conducted a hydrogen test. So it is conducting tests for hydrogen bombs too. So though that is much more powerful. So this hydrogen bomb will use fusion in a chain reaction. That is far more powerful than atom bomb. So this is the hydrogen bomb being developed. Then the next news item is RBI tells banks to treat banned notes as soiled. So it says that the withdrawn currencies are there in the currency chest of the banks, but they should be put under soiled category and they should not be used for calculating chest balance limit or cash holding limit of banks. So this is the order coming from banks, from RBI to the banks. Then the last news item is retail inflation slows to 3.17% in January. So retail inflation means consumer price index based inflation has further slowed down. So there is a considerable decrease in food prices. So food prices inflation has sharply slowed down. So this is a concern because food and fuel are considered as resulting in headline inflation. So generally their prices fluctuate quite frequently. So that results in headline inflation. But here presently we are seeing that core inflation is sticky. Sticky means it's staying high. So in other categories, inflation rate is high. So this is the higher price increase in intoxicants, clothing, housing, but food inflation is going down. So of course it will affect the overall inflation as well. So that is why this is a concern. But overall inflation has further slowed down as such. So that is it. These are the news items. Thank you.